Hello and welcome everybody to episode 70 of Comic DNA, X edition number 11, on which myself, Aaron Walther, and my good buddy and pal and X-Men reading chum, Alex Harner, read the classic Stan Lee and Jack Kirby X-Men issues. Alex, I know for a fact, indisputable fact, that you are excited to be back and talking about these old 1965 X-Men comics.
Well, I'm excited to be closing in on the on the end of our Stan Lee Jack Kirby run of the original issues.
So that's something that I kind of wanted to talk about. When we started this, I mean, it's been a little while now because we haven't been doing the greatest job. I mean, it's certainly not been weekly. Maybe averaged out, we could maybe say it's been monthly, but
maybe.
Yeah,
Christmas happened,
yeah,
December, the holidays.
You got to factor in the all the vacation and holiday time with all of the winter depression. It really just kills any free time that you have.
Right.
But all of that aside, I know when we started this, you were pretty excited.
I was.
You were. You love X-Men. You love reading X-Men comics. And you were excited to kind of go back and see where it all began, because this is all stuff that you've never read before.
Exactly.
And here we are, issue 11, and you literally just told me you're ready to just get it over with.
Is that how you interpreted that statement?
I
said meant something totally different.
I said literally, and I meant it. That's certainly how it came off to me.
Yeah, so I was really excited to read the original Stan Lee Jack Kirby issues, and they've been super interesting. But I've lost some of that fire. It's possible that while there have been a few gems, these aren't all the best comics I've ever read.
That's... my short-term memory is not what it used to be, but I think you may recall that was my general attitude, was that I was happy to read these again, but they weren't the greatest of issues in general. I think the number I kept going back to was 4. There might be like 4 good issues.
Yeah. Now you were, from the get-go, you were pretty clear on that.
Yeah.
I think my optimism got the better of me, and I maintain the first issue is really strong.
I agree, yeah.
So kind of coming out of the gate, I was like, yeah, let's do this. And I think we hit around issue 6 or 7.
Right.
And it's been a little bit of a chore.
Yeah, I agree. It is a problem, especially because, like you said, the first issue is great. Like the first X-Men number 1 actually is a fantastic comic book. I really love it. Mm-hmm. And the 10 issues that we've read since then, not spoiler alert, I don't want to maybe give too much away with this issue, just don't live up to that.
They're just not that exciting.
They're just not that exciting, yeah. There've been a few moments, like here and there, that kind of approach that, but as issues, I don't think any of them overall are that great.
We did Thrill to Zabu.
We did.
But
we had no choice.
How can you not? But yeah, overall, I think we've done this out of 5, kind of jokey score.
Yeah.
But even kind of joking, like they average out around like a 2.5.
2.5, yeah. That would, which, to be fair, that's middle of the road average.
Yeah. Some of them were worse.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of them were. They're just kind of standard 1960s comics.
Yeah.
The good ones are more than that, but there's not that many good ones.
That's the problem. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the problem.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I'm sure you're excited to talk about issue 11, starring the Stranger.
Stranger.
As the sign says on the cover, introducing the Stranger.
It's kind of a little sign.
It's a little sign, and it looks so incidental. Like it was just like, it was just part of the art that Kirby drew for the cover, and somebody somewhere in the design phase went,
yeah,
hey, instead of putting like a big ugly blob on the cover, let's put the little, the blurb, we'll kind of like integrate it into the art because there's that little
Yeah.
spot that's assigned there. But it's so small. This
Yeah.
is nothing like what you would see in a Will Eisner comic. Will
Yeah.
Eisner was famous for integrating the art with the logos and such. And
Well, even after the last cover, Thrilled as Abu,
yeah, Thrilled as Abu
is a fantastic Kirby cover.
Yeah,
It's Kesar's leaping at you. It's got some cool kind of graphic design elements. It's very filled out.
Yeah.
This almost looks like it was photoshopped together. I mean,
Yeah,
they wouldn't have used Photoshop, but you know what I mean?
It does look very collage-like.
Yeah.
Because you have that background of the building and the cityscape, and it almost looks like they just pulled that out of something and then just placed these characters in front of it. Now, to their credit, I mean, it doesn't help that the character of the stranger is in this weird standing crouch pose, and he's just placed strangely in the sky.
It's
like
confusing.
That enhances the whole collage Photoshop aspect of it. To be fair, in story it makes sense why he would be doing that, but not knowing anything about this character, it looks really weird and cut and paste art.
Absolutely. Very hodgepodge.
Yeah, very hodgepodge. It's very strange. And it's just like it. I have to imagine that if you were planning on incorporating the cover logo work or the copy, the text, that stuff, that you would have made the sign in the background much larger, like made a big billboard that was sticking out that you could, But this just seems so strangely incidental.
It's very odd.
It's
really
strange.
Not a good cover.
No, it's a terrible cover. I don't know.
I mean, look at the buildings as well. They're, I guess we don't want to spin too far into the art just yet, maybe, but, I mean, this is the starting point of the issue, and it's already given us problems.
Yeah.
The building is really detailed, but it's all grayed out.
Right.
So it's like, what's the point?
Almost as if it looks, again, that goes back to that Photoshop thing, where somebody just took a photo of a building and just manipulated it so it was just black and white and stuck it in there. Now, the catch is, Jack Kirby has done some stuff like that before, but he wouldn't have been doing it at this point. In the 70s, he started experimenting with collage artwork in his comics, and he was doing stuff like that, where he was taking photos and using that for the background and then drawing figures in it. I don't remember how much he actually did it, but I know there was a few issues of Fantastic Four, and I think he did it in Kamandi too, that had some startling pages that were kind of like that. This is not that, though. This is just like he drew the building, and then in the coloring phase, they just decided to color it all gray. Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it makes the stranger pop, but
the stranger
already looks goofy.
Yeah, he's goofy and boring.
Right.
It's not
weird.
You know what's weird about this cover? It's not colorful. It's such a strange, dull cover.
It's a lot of gray.
Yeah, whole lot of gray. Woof. Very different from the previous cover, Thrilled as Abu.
Right.
Which was a great cover. I think we both, despite the irony of the previous issue number 10, is that I think both of us were pretty unmoved by it in general. Yet it still got one of our highest ratings out of all of the issues, because it was at least colorful and exciting and competent, even though
I think we said it was consistent as well. It gave what it presented and didn't really seem like an X-Men story at all, but it was coherent. There was some colorful, exciting sequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
with that
brings
in
us to
mind,
this.
That brings us to this issue. So we've harped on the cover long enough. If I'm not mistaken, I think it is your turn to do the plot synopsis. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Oof. I
You're
am
right.
I think out of all of the issues we've read so far, I'm so very happy not to be doing the plot synopsis for this issue.
I'm gonna have another swig of my drink here.
That's right. Have at
Ready
it.
for this.
Get yourself ready and just lay into this issue. Tell me what happens in it, because
What happens in this issue titled "The Triumph of Magneto"?
Which, by the way,
so,
let's just say that so that it's the most boring cover in the world.
right?
And then you open to this title page, "The Triumph of Magneto." Magneto's not on the cover.
Yeah. I mean, if we're gonna say this is Magneto's triumph, that's a selling point.
Right.
Why isn't it on the front of the issue?
What a weird disconnect. I have to assume there was some lack of communication there. I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder what the story is behind the scenes.
I have more speculation that I could go on, but I'm not going to just now because you need to get to the
okay.
the plot synopsis.
The glorious synopsis.
Yeah. So lay it on me.
All right, so breaking down the plot. This issue opens with a splash page, as have many other issues.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, instead of the danger room, we have Professor X tinkering with one of his new machines. It is a radar image beam. I don't know what that is, but basically it's supposed to help them find new mutants in a way that's different or better than Cerebro. And it projects an image of them as it's finding them. So I guess they know who to look for. So that's cool. So they're all rushing in to see this machine, and Professor X says there's a powerful mutant nearby, and the machine ends up not being able to capture his image because he's too powerful. And Professor X, I think, says something to the effect of the fact that we can't capture this image means he's insanely powerful. So that means, of course, they have to move fast because Magneto might get there first. Classic setup for these issues, anyway.
Yeah, pretty standard. New mutant. X-Men have to get to him before Magneto does. Mm-hmm. Magneto tries to turn the New Mutant against the X-Men.
Yeah, so that's the setup. From here, we cut to the Stranger, who is a strange-looking man.
To his credit, he is strange.
Yeah, Kirby did a good job of making him look strange. He's on some sort of mission. He's got in a room that will suit his purposes. It's all very mysterious. He pays rent with a giant wad of cash that he seems to create from nothing. Mm-hmm. He heads out into the world. He walks on air. He goes through walls. People are shocked by this, obviously. There's not a lot of context for explanation. He's just he's a strange guy. He's the Stranger. He can do crazy things.
He's just a weird guy in a lab coat and a blue bowler.
Yep. And he's got an outrageous mustache. For reasons that don't make any sense, he's drawn to this building. Is that?
Yeah.
Am I remembering the line right?
That's exactly it. He's something attracting him to this particular building, this particular wall, in fact.
Yeah. He's got to go. He's got to go to it. He goes through the wall, and I guess the thing attracting him was Magneto and his evil mutants, who have been waiting for him and insist he join them because they are powerful, and it's the classic Magneto is a crazy person spiel,
right.
Who says he's going to rule everything and he's strong, so why would you not join me? From there, what happens? What happens? Things happen in this issue, but...
Well, we get that little interlude where the X-Men are looking for this new mutant, and Cyclops is just kind of walking the street, and the cops meet him.
They're looking for some strange guy who is apparently walking on air, and Cyclops tries to avoid them. So, of course, they pull his glasses off, because that's a normal thing to do.
Right.
And this, of course, causes a Cyclops mishap, and they recognize him as Cyclops from the X-Men. Beast saves him. They kind of regroup with the other X-Men. And then we cut back to Magneto recruiting the Stranger by showing him his awesome power, and Mastermind chimes in and also shows him his power. And then the Stranger, as it turns out, is not amused and is super powerful.
Right.
He kind of like breaks free of Mastermind's spell and Magneto's control. He turns Mastermind into a solid block of matter and sends him crashing through the floor.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, who saw that coming? And then, I guess this is a fantastic issue. I guess because of that distraction, that craziness, someone calls for the help from the police. This attracts the X-Men because they're all in the neighborhood together.
Yeah.
The X-Men show up. They all
conveniently,
fight.
Angel finds a building with a giant hole in the wall, like they're just looking for for whatever happened in the area, and there's a giant hole in the wall.
Which doesn't make sense because when the Stranger turned Mastermind into a solid block of matter, he sent him through the floor.
Right, not the wall. Right.
So why there's just this gaping hole in the wall?
I don't know.
It's kind of a non sequitur. The art doesn't really present a lot of coherence here.
Yeah, it's not very clear.
Yeah. But the X-Men arrive. Angel's there first. Mm-hmm. They fight a little bit. Iceman arrives and freezes Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm.
In the fight, the Stranger basically grabs Magneto and Toad and kind of whisks them away. It's kind of like he teleports them. It's a like, funky Kirby visual.
It's a Kirby thing. Yeah, step into his cone of energy.
And he like spins them away.
Yeah.
So Magneto and Toad are pulled out of the fight, as is the Stranger. The other X-Men arrive. They shut the fight down.
All that's left is Scarlet Witch. Mastermind's been turned into a block, a solid block of matter, and Iceman turned Quicksilver into a human snow cone. It just like froze him.
Yeah, so Iceman beats Quicksilver here, which is kind of a cool display of power, I guess.
It actually is. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everyone's out of the fight except for Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
Right.
And
finally, actually, Quicksilver is out of the fight. Scarlet Witch is the only one who's not. Yeah.
Okay.
Magneto
but she
and
kind of
leave.
Yeah. So it's really the only person left to do battle with Scarlet Witch, and she kind of bows out because she's worried about her brother. She's more concerned about helping Quicksilver than continuing the battle. And finally,
I knew when I read this, I was like, Alex might give this issue like a 4 out of 5 just for this one freaking panel.
Finally, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver say they've had enough. Their debt has been repaid many times over. It will no longer work for Magneto.
Yeah.
Big moment.
It is. It's I actually think it's a pretty good moment, but again, we'll get into it in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so yeah, they quit. Cyclops tries to make a last-ditch effort to get them to join the X-Men, and they give them the cold shoulder and say they're tired of fighting, they don't want anything to do with it, and they're leaving. Going back to Central Europe.
Yep. Nondescript Central European country.
Central Europe, yeah.
Somewhere over there. So we cut back to Magneto, who has been whisked away by the Stranger to the forest, and the Stranger's really powerful. He displays some more of his incredible power, basically totally shuts down Magneto. I don't remember exactly how, but the X-Men find them.
Yeah, they do. I'm actually looking. It's really it's really cheap. It's a single panel. They get into a helicopter, there's just a helicopter. I think the implication is that now you got to remember that are you ready? Let's get into some X-Men lore here. This is pre-Blackbird. Okay, the Blackbird is the standard X-Men get around vehicle. that's like their super secret spy jet that whenever they need to go somewhere, they get in the Blackbird. Okay, that was not established. That has not been established yet. And whenever they needed to go somewhere as a team, Jack Kirby would always just have them in a helicopter.
Yeah, it has happened more than once at this point.
Yeah, there's been a few times where there's just like a helicopter that Professor X chartered. This time you notice that there's a little X drawn on it in the art.
Yeah.
So the implication is that it's Professor X's helicopter. But
in case you weren't sure.
Yeah, but the narration doesn't say that. The narration is very kind of like pulled back, and it just says, like, this is verbatim, this is what the text says on the panel. Within minutes, a helicopter takes to the air, guided by the most brilliant mutant brain of all time, the brain of Professor Xavier. So again, the implication is that it's Professor X's helicopter, but it's never really outrightly stated. But yeah, so this is, you could just imagine that they got in the Blackbird, and Professor X was able to find them with his mind powers and was able to guide them to wherever Magneto is.
Yeah,
I think that's sort of the shortcut there. But
yeah,
it's a little rough, only because, again, I think like you and I, certainly coming at it from like knowing the full scope of the X-Men mythology. You know, if this story were being adapted into a movie, you would see the Blackbird in that panel.
Sure.
Or even in any comic within the last like 30, 40 years, it would be the Blackbird. Because the Blackbird, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember exactly when it showed up, but I think it was pretty standard by the time Chris Claremont took over.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to look into that.
But anyway, so that's really what happened there. But it is sort of like quickly, like it's literally a panel of a helicopter, and then in the next panel is the X-Men on the ground at the location. Like there's no, this kind of gets back into that, if you want to get into like a greater discussion of the economy of story and the page, the economy of the page, and how Jack Kirby cuts a lot out of the actual storytelling.
Sure.
It's a panel of the helicopter in the sky, and then a panel of the characters on the ground. And if you look carefully, you can actually see the helicopter in the background, but it is like hidden behind some bushes.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 17 here in the issue.
Yeah, I'm seeing it, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah,
so I guess
like going from memory, that's very easy to not remember because it's so unmemorable and nondescript.
Well, it's also, I mean, I guess it's been established. We know that Professor X is a telepath and he can find people. So maybe we're being a little nitpicky here, but it's also, it's just so abrupt. It's like it's like this fight ends and then it's like, let's go get them, and then they're getting them.
It's pretty choppy.
Yeah. So they arrive. The Watcher, not the Watcher, the Stranger has Toad and Magneto wrapped up in these cocoons. Yeah. And man, this happens quickly. The Stranger's like, I'm an alien. I came here to study mutants. Now we're going to space forever. And he takes Magneto and Toad, and that's
it's just
sequence.
It's literally a page. Like it's like he explains what they are. Like panel 1 is the Stranger, and then panel 2 is the Stranger like starting to use his powers, and then panel 3 is 2 nondescript bodies, which you can, I think the implication. No, it is supposed to be Magneto and Toad in their cocoons being whisked away into the sky. And then panel 3 is like 3 energy beings leaving Earth in the cosmos in the background. And then
That's
the next
an amazing
page,
panel.
It's an amazing panel. I agree. And then the next page, everybody's gone, and they're just gone. The X-Men are just standing there by themselves.
Yep. I don't know what to say. There's this page of Beast. They're all like looking up, like, okay, which I guess is how we feel. Then the cops show up and they want to talk to the X-Men. Because apparently the world still knows that the X-Men exist and are kind of cool. Yeah. But they don't know that Professor X leads them.
Right.
So there's this need to escape quickly and have Professor X's identity.
Protect his identity, yeah.
Yeah. So Beast kind of distracts them. They escape. They return to the mansion, and you kind of get this, well, this chapter of our lives has come to an end. We don't have to worry about these guys anymore.
Yeah.
And then an alarm goes off, and Professor X says, "Oh, we've sensed an even more powerful mutant," and it ends there. Tune in next time for further adventures.
Yeah.
What an issue!
What an issue indeed. Okay. All right. First impressions, gut feelings. Is this the most pointless issue in the entire series so far? The 11 issues that we've read.
This is a stupid comic.
I mean, okay, so first of all, I don't even know where to begin with it, first of all. Like,
yeah.
Okay, number one. So, my first thought when reading this was that this was another one of those issues where Jack Kirby was trying to tell a Twilight Zone type story.
Okay.
With the X-Men characters in it. And the X-Men characters are kind of incidental. And the idea is that there's this new powerful being that shows up, and they're, the formula. The X-Men are going to try and find him. Magneto's going to coax him to his side because he's a bad guy. And then Magneto sort of succeeds in winning his favor. But then the twist ending is that the stranger's favor is actually undesirable, and
right.
by making the stranger interested in him, he has got himself into a pickle that he can't get out of, and the stranger whisks him away forever. Like it's such a this. I mean, it's interesting to read this, of course, in the context of like a 50, 60-year history, because obviously Magneto was never heard from again. He was, he was whisked away by this all-powerful...
just forgotten as an obscure character.
It's just, what an obscure character. He was the main villain for 11 issues, and then he was gone. Just some rando alien just showed up out of nowhere and just took him away. That's the end of that chapter. I look forward to... all the next issues, all starring the Blob and the Vanisher. Those classic X-Men villains,
memorable villains.
Yeah.
Unis,
yes, exactly. Unis, the Blob, and the Vanisher, the classic X-Men antagonists.
Yeah.
But I am being a little facetious here.
Yes.
If you couldn't tell. But I don't know, it's so, and even the fact that it ends with the kind of, like, immediate lead into the next issue. It almost makes it feel even more pointless. Like, couldn't you have just started this issue with, Cerebro is picking up the most powerful thing we've ever heard before, and then just go into the next issue? You know what I mean? Like what does this issue serve? Other than actually, I mean, what this issue does is disband the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Sure. Which I guess it's like there are a few thoughts here that are maybe kind of fun and interesting, but they're handled. There's barely anything developed with them. It's
so okay. So like this should be a big moment, right? The disbanding of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and the X-Men had nothing to do with it. It's just some third party, nondescript character just shows up and destroys them and then leaves.
And not even really pertinent to the themes of the X-Men.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another catch. Yeah.
We're gonna throw in an alien.
Right.
It's such a, like, it's a Deus Ex Machina, but it's not, because there was no. It didn't need to be there in the first place.
It's the most pointless story. Like even the Savage Land, the previous issue that we talked about. We talked about how it didn't ever really address any of the themes of the X-Men, but there was this kind of, on a deep level, you could bring a lot of the X-Men themes to it, which is why it has survived through the decades and become a central piece of the X-Men mythology.
Sure.
Because later writers could look at that and be like, that's important, and I
Yeah.
can tie that to the themes.
There's enough there that there was
Yeah.
it was worth mining further.
Exactly. There's a reason we've all heard of the Savage Land, and we haven't all heard of the Stranger.
The Stranger.
Okay? Yeah.
I'm sure he came back at some point.
I'm sure there's some continuity point. Yeah, some continuity moment. Or even some issue where it was just some random character who there was just like a little asterisk, like editor's note. This is the same character as X-Men number 11, the Stranger.
Sure.
Even
sure.
though that, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like, and I think maybe you could say this in the last few issues, it feels like the title overall was struggling to carve out its own place in the Marvel books.
Uh-huh.
Like it just wasn't.
Well, I agree. I think that's been the problem with this X-Men book forever. Or not forever, but I mean throughout all of the 60s, which is why, as we all know, it was eventually canceled.
Right.
And for like, gosh, how many years? For a lengthy amount of time, it was just running repeats, like 7 years, maybe more than that.
It's a long time to reprint a comic.
It's a long time to just.
They don't do
repeats.
it like that anymore.
No, exactly. Like it was a long time where there was just no, like, the X-Men were dead.
Yeah.
Except they were just running repeats because it was a time when you could just still sell any old comic book, apparently. Yeah, what a time to be alive, huh?
What a time. It's weird because this, as you said, it's pointless. They didn't need to write the Brotherhood out of existence. They could have just told other stories that were more interesting.
Right,
but it was like they didn't have any interesting stories, so they wrote a still mostly uninteresting story about the Brotherhood not existing anymore.
Yeah.
It's bad.
It's bad in a strange way. Like I kind of
It was like they felt the need to tie, to put a bow on this story arc that was never interesting and didn't need to be concluded.
Which had gone on for like at least 4 issues too long,
Yeah.
Like the whole Quicksilver Scarlet Witch conclusion that happens in this issue should have happened in that 2-part issue, like issues 5 and 6, whichever those were. That should have been the conclusion of that issue. That should have been the start and end of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. But they dragged it along for at least a few more issues after that.
Yeah.
It's very irritating.
Yeah.
But I suppose I will give credit. Credit where credit is due. They did go out of their way. We keep saying they, like referring to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I don't know whose decision it was to finally move things along. Because, again, that was another complaint that I had, I think, in a previous podcast. We talked about that. About how Stan Lee was really insistent on all of the characters growing and changing, which I found very strange, considering that a lot of these X-Men issues felt like they were very stagnant and going out of their way to not do that. Like Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch would witness Magneto try to kill them, and then they would say, I don't know if we can trust him anymore, but we'll keep doing it. How many times can that happen? Like it's just so strange. And in this issue, finally, we got the breaking point, which I actually, I want to say that was one of the only scenes in this issue that I actually liked. Was
I think it was one of the only moments of character development.
Yeah, that's exactly where, and that's kind of where I was going with this. Like, why it's the only part that I liked, because you felt like something was happening with the characters, and maybe it was a little bit of blue balls going on with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. It's like, this is the scene I've been freaking waiting for since like issue 4, ever since they introduced them. And to be fair, this is only issue 11. Maybe it's not that long. I don't remember if this issue, if the.
I mean, it's not like 4 seasons of Lost.
That's exactly where I was going with that. But anyway, so yeah, that scene. Like there's the beginning of that scene. Angel shows up and he's like, "Oh, I can take you all on by himself." and the Quicksilver starts fighting him, and it's kind of interesting. And then Iceman shows up and actually like gets the better of Quicksilver. I liked that whole sequence. Like I was a little invested in that because you felt like the characters were actually doing something. What they were doing mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, glossing over the whole Magneto, just like Magneto and Toad leaving with the stranger, but staying in the scene at the moment. Cyclops shows up and he starts kind of blasting everywhere, and Scarlet Witch, you have that. So this is kind of a tangent to a topic we haven't brought up yet, but the whole Jean Grey Cyclops tension in this issue.
Yeah.
I found this issue to be interesting because there's no instance of Cyclops having his internal struggle, pining over Jean Grey. It's 100%.
That's true.
It's 100% Jean Grey in this issue, where
it's all Jean this issue.
All Jean, and you get that awesome panel where Jean just attacks Scarlet Witch.
Awesome good or awesome bad?
I'm not gonna put labels on it. It's just awesome. I can't decide if it's good or bad, but it's awesome. Where Jean Grey just attacks Scarlet Witch, and they finally get to go head to head, and you get this sweet chick fight. Yeah.
Oh, on page. All right.
Yeah.
You're talking about.
I haven't gotten to the page you're thinking of. I'm talking about page 13.
Page 13. Yeah. No, that is a cool panel.
Yes.
That's a legitimately cool panel.
That's a legitimately great panel.
We're finally seeing Jean Grey cut loose, and she's throwing debris across the room, and
Yeah. And
that's a cool panel.
And it's cool because it's the two female characters, and so you get
Doing
this whole
something.
both of them are actually doing something where the stakes are high.
Uh-huh.
Jean Grey's gonna finally cut loose. Scarlet Witch is fighting for her life to protect her brother.
Uh-huh.
It's a good panel.
Yeah.
I would actually go so far as to say preemptively, maybe, but I mean it's probably my favorite panel in the issue, barring any kitschy joke panels that we may talk about in the future.
Okay.
But it's a legitimately great panel.
I think that's the first I feel like some variation of this Jean Grey pose where her arms are wide and her hair shooting back, and she's it's like the later would be the Phoenix attack, but now it's just the psychic blast.
It's become kind of archetypical Jean Grey.
It's she's about to lay the smack down.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool panel.
It's a good panel, and then they stop the fight because Scarlet Witch says she's not interested in finding them. She just wants to protect her brother. And then again, I think you get a cool panel of Cyclops going out of his, he's going to save Quicksilver by blasting all of the frost off of him. And I don't know. I will admit, maybe I just like Cyclops more than the average person. I just like Cyclops.
You just like,
especially in these issues. I do. I've talked before about how I think the Beast is Jack Kirby's favorite character to draw, but I do think that Cyclops, between Jack Kirby's art and Stan Lee's writing, I think Cyclops ends up being kind of the most interesting character. He's got a good visual, and there's a lot of things to write about with him. Between pining over Jean, stressing out over the burdens of being the leader, and constantly worrying about the dread power that possesses his dread power. There's just so much. There's a lot you can do with the character. Yeah. And so I really like him. Mm-hmm. And you get that panel where he's telling everybody to shut up so that he can concentrate. He's got to be very delicate and very careful to blast all of the ice off of Quicksilver without killing him in the process.
Nobody speak.
Yeah. It's good. I like it. It's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. No, it is a good sequence. That little couple
great.
Pages is solid.
It's just too bad that it's mired in this issue with other characters we don't care about, because like you said, that sequence is great. It's characters with real motivations that you believe, even in the context of the silly stuff that's happening in the silly world that they live in. Mm-hmm. And the stakes are high because the stakes are high because it's I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this. The stakes feel high because they're on such a small personal level that it's easy to relate to.
Okay.
When you get these like weird things of like, I can't even think of the name of that character from a few issues ago who's just got a bomb and he's just going to blow up Europe. And
Lucifer.
Lucifer. How could I forget a name like Lucifer?
Lucifer.
That character that didn't live up to his name, Lucifer. When you
They let him go to teach him a lesson.
Right. The stakes are all over the place, and they feel weird. Like it's like he's got a bomb, he's gonna kill everybody. Who cares? Whereas I don't know. There's something about when you have these characters, when you have Scarlet Witch and Jean Grey fighting, and Scarlet Witch just wants to help her brother, and Cyclops, agrees to help, but he's afraid of killing the guy. You feel it more when you kind of bring it more down to a human level.
Sure. Like the fact that you know that Quicksilver isn't that bad of a guy.
Yes.
And he's actually like frozen stiff. You're like,
right.
All right, maybe they got to save him here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so that's a really good sequence. And I'm just gonna go ahead and just a little preview for the end of this podcast. This sequence is possibly the only thing preventing this issue from getting a 0 out of 5 whatevers.
Okay.
I'm just saying now, personally from myself.
You think it's worse than the Blob, the original Blob issue?
The original Blob issue. That's a well. Okay, we'll save that for the end. Let's talk a little bit more about this before we start getting into.
I think it is actually, but we'll save it.
We'll save it.
Yeah, it is a strong sequence.
It's
originally
really
when you mentioned the Jean Scarlet Witch dynamic, I thought you were going to talk about the
that's
fairly stupid panel.
Yeah, so that's my second favorite panel.
Okay.
Page 15, which is the stupidest panel after they've saved Quicksilver, and they're kind of that's the one I assume this is what you're talking about, where Cyclops gives his pitch to try and get Scarlet Witch to join them, and there's that awesome thought bubble from Jean Grey.
Jean is like freaking out.
She immediately goes into catty 60s girl mode.
Right.
And she's so just the way that Scarlet Witch looks at Cyclops. It can't be. Oh man. I'm not gonna lie, Alex. I love that panel. But for completely different reasons than I loved the other panel.
Stan Lee, he just lays it on so thick.
He can't help himself.
He's got to add that extra layer of unnecessary teenage drama.
Right, exactly.
And it's not interesting. It's just, but it's, I guess in retrospect, it's kind of funny. It's okay. So it's kitschy funny, but I'm gonna go ahead and go out on a limb here. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be too sympathetic, but I do think that it sort of fits with the whole. You have two girl characters. You have them fight. You have, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to be too charitable. It is a little too much. I don't know. Like Jean Grey being jealous of her. Like after they resolve their issue, and then Jean Grey still being like jealous and resentful of Scarlet Witch. Just okay. Listeners to this podcast, you've witnessed the on-air transformation. It is too much. I can't take it. I did as much as I could. Right there, he broke. He broke.
I tried. I'm trying to appreciate it in the context in which it was written. And this issue is a whole lot that all of it. Like I said earlier, there's no point where Cyclops is pining over Jean. It's all Jean in this issue. Like Stan Lee just went full on Jean. And I have to assume it's because at some point he was looking at the art and was like, okay, that's the hook for this issue. Jean fights Scarlet Witch. Jean is upset because Cyclops doesn't notice her. Later on, after they resolve everything, she gets jealous of Scarlet Witch for no reason, because it's not like it's ever dealt with or resolved in the issue. It's completely in the background. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I'm trying to be charitable. This is just like little character things that he's dropping here and there, because like you said, he just can't help himself. He has to cram so much dialogue. It's so unnecessary in this panel.
Sure.
It doesn't add anything. Other than to heighten Jean's like sensitivity to Cyclops.
Sure. I mean, I guess you could make the argument that the nature of the medium and the time and the context, it's all melodrama and it's all over the top and it's all silly.
Yeah.
The problem is, like, this is a really boring issue. Like,
yeah,
maybe Stanley's just tried really hard to throw some things in there to keep it interesting. Maybe that's it, but
I'm ready to believe that because it's boring and I do almost feel again kind of like what you're hinting at. It's like he's grasping at straws. Where can he fit the character drama in? Mm-hmm. Even though we had that great sequence with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, that's not enough. They still need. It's
like 2 out of 21 pages or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's not great. He's trying, but it's. I don't know. How do you even judge it? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just know overall, this didn't work for me.
No, it didn't.
It did not.
It really did not.
Although the 3 souls blasting into space on page 18.
it's a good page.
Could the entire issue have just been like Kirby space souls?
Full on like Kirby space gods. I mean, like, okay, let's just go there.
All right.
So this is one thing that I think it's simultaneously something that I actually really like about Kirby, and is also really just dull and boring in this issue, which is his use of cosmic beings and just like otherworldly power. Mm-hmm. This character of the Stranger is so beyond the mutant-human dynamic, right? Like he's a space god. He completely shrugs off anything that Magneto says to him and overpowers him without a thought. Mm-hmm. And is just like, okay, I'm an all-powerful being who was sent here to study mutants, and now I am leaving. And he leaves.
That's all. You're expecting some greater depth here. There is none.
Well, I actually kind of... Okay, so maybe it's just because I have existentialist tendencies. And I like reading... I like reading H.P. Lovecraft. Okay. So maybe there's a part of me that just likes stories about simple humans, or in the case of the X-Men, simple mutants, trying to struggle with their back and forth dilemma, and knowing that there's just some all-powerful being who does not really give a flip about them and who could destroy them at any second, you know, if it were any concern to him. And but also that he's not concerned about them. Like, there's this weird thing, you know, You're
talking about this Stranger as this character?
Yeah, the Stranger is this character of, like, an elder god or this cosmic being, you know, he fits into all these characters that, like, these types of characters that Kirby has used, you know, the Eternals in the Marvel Universe, or the, you know, the Fourth World stuff that he did over at DC. I'm not saying that the character is literally part of that. I'm just saying that he falls into this archetype of...
Right.
You know, he is this otherworldly power that is so outside of the internal conflicts of the main characters of the series. Mm-hmm. I have an appreciation for just stories that use that, but it's not done very well in this issue, or at least in an interesting way. Like,
there's just nothing. There's just nothing there.
The X-Men don't even really understand or like react to, you know, like it's not a. I'm trying to think of how I would put this. Again, this kind of goes back to the, you know, again going back to the previous issue that we talked about, the Savage Land. There was a lot of interesting stuff there that wasn't actually in the text, and I fully admit that when you read the Savage Land story, I bring a lot to it, where I read that and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of interesting stuff you could do with this, and of course later writers did. But it's not actually there in the text. Like, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby didn't do a lot with it.
Right.
This is the same way. There's really not actually a lot there. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby don't do a lot with it. Stan Lee didn't write a story. I mean, you have Jack Kirby delivering the art, where an all-powerful cosmic god shows up and completely just decimates everybody involved and leaves with Magneto and Toad.
Mm-hmm.
And the X-Men don't learn or talk about it like in any way.
It's true.
There's no moment where they're like, there are powers outside of this world that even we can comprehend, and what does this mean for mutants? Nothing.
Right. That's a good point. You don't even get the one-liner at the end of the issue.
Yes.
It's literally you get the panel on the page on the top of 19.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, whoa. And then moving on.
And then the next page, it's like Professor X is like, well, we can remove Magneto and Toad and Mastermind from our Cerebro machine because they're gone forever. There's like
Mastermind's still a hunk of granite, apparently.
Exactly. He's just been turned into stone and nobody cares. There's no sense of like, what does this mean for the future of mutant kind on Earth? There's this cosmic being that came to Earth to study mutants, and he completely can do whatever. He can have his way with us. He is a power beyond our comprehension. Don't worry about that right now. All that's important is Magneto's gone, and we got nothing to worry about. Except for then it's like this cheap cliffhanger where they're like, oh, Cerebro's beeping like crazy, and we don't know what it could be because it's obviously not Magneto because he just got kidnapped into space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
There's a bit about it being like the most powerful threat ever.
Right.
Or like, something.
How could it possibly be the most powerful threat ever? You literally just watched a extra-dimensional god.
Right. Yeah, a simple line like, perhaps the stranger represents what we will all one day become through mutation.
Yeah.
Something like that would have at least attempted to
to tie it to the theme of the X-Men. Like the stranger viewed mutants the way mutants view humans. What does that mean? You know what I mean? Like some kind of he thought mutants were just beneath him and his playthings to do what he will. We must be sure that we never act that way toward humans, in the sake of, universal harmony. Nothing.
It really makes me wonder, this coming after the Savage Land, how many of these things was Jack Kirby thinking about?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we have no idea, but
right.
I think we can look at both of them and say there is something here that could be really interesting, and
yeah.
I think in both cases did get mined more later, but was Kirby thinking of it? We don't know. Did Stan Lee just totally miss it altogether? We don't know. But what ultimately is produced is just like,
yeah.
Well, shucks, Magneto went to space. Let's move on.
Right. Exactly. Well, shucks. That's like everything about this issue. I don't know. I mean, I try not to, I try not to flash my my faux writer credentials on this podcast, and I try not to go down that path of this is how I would have done it, because I think that path leads to madness.
Fair enough.
A lot of times when you're evaluating something, you just have to evaluate what it is, and it can be. It's a dark road to go down when you think of.
Sure.
When you try to think of what was
rewrite
the writer,
everybody else's work.
Exactly. When you try to rewrite their work and just think, if I was doing this, this is what I would do. Well, that's just it's not always constructive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's always wrong. I'm just saying it's not always constructive. So I try to avoid it.
Sure.
And but yeah, I can't help but look at this issue and think what a pointless missed opportunity. It doesn't have anything to do with the X-Men. It writes out the X-Men villains in the cheapest way possible.
It really is the Poochie getting written out of the Simpsons episode.
Yes, exactly.
Going back to my home planet, or what? Is that what it was?
Yeah. I must leave now.
They pull the animation cell off.
Right. Hey, Poochie, you look like you got something to say. I'm not gonna do the itchy and scratchy voice, but you look like you got something to say. Yes, I certainly do. I must go. My planet needs me.
So he was warped into space. The end.
The end. There's a sense of that going on here. And again, like let's pull back, okay? In the context of 10-year-olds from 1965, 1966, whenever this issue was, are we being too harsh on it? Is our sophisticated 21st century adult brains just too advanced to enjoy this comic that was meant for idiot kids in the 60s, the 1960s?
These dumb children.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because I think we were pretty gracious to the Kazar.
We were, yeah.
The
we
Kazar
were really
issue.
Gracious.
Like, I think, it kind of rocked in its own way, despite being silly and detached from the themes. It kind of worked. And this
I agree.
I think this drops the ball.
I think the Kazar. I think it's really important to compare this to Kazar, which we spent an hour being the most lukewarm we could possibly be about the issue, and still ultimately saying it's one of the best issues of the series. So,
yeah,
I think context is important, and I also think, even if you compare this to other issues that were being made at the time, hell, I'll compare this to whatever Fantastic Four issue was being made at the time, and I guarantee you the Fantastic Four issue is a million times better.
Mm-hmm.
God, I hope somebody doesn't hold me to that, because I don't actually remember when this issue was published and what Fantastic Four issue was published at the same time, but...
Actually, sir, Fantastic Four number 23 was far inferior.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's a bet I'm willing to take. Let me put it like that. I don't like making guarantees because,
But you take the bet.
But I'll take the bet. And,
okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, I don't know. I think what bothers me most about this issue is the way it sort of has nothing to do with the X-Men, the way it has this important continuity moment, the way it leaves a lot of things just kind of upended, the way it's an ungracious ending, quote-unquote, for Magneto, and the way it just casually leads into another story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just so much to dislike about this issue. I almost feel like I'm being too hard on it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Alex. What can you say to make me seem like not such a sourpuss?
I don't know, man. I'm thinking about the Blob, the original Blob issue. And
yeah, that issue left me cold. Holy cow.
It's a bad issue, but at least, I don't know, what was crazier? The Carnies showing up and setting up an attack circus around the mansion? Or the Stranger firing Toad and Magneto into the universe?
I was about to say, I'm trying to go on, like pure kitsch value. Because, retrospectively, the Carnies building, like a circus around the mansion, like building, high wires to break into the mansion.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of love it.
It's very silly.
It's very silly. And an elephant charging at Cyclops was awesome. It was so cool. But I don't know, the Stranger just exiting Earth with Magneto and Toad, completely helpless. I gotta go with the Carnies. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why. This is only a single panel in this issue of cosmic nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
More panels of that, and I would have liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just one panel out of nowhere. Or not. Yeah, I'll actually say that one panel. It barely a page, if you can say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Call me crazy, but I think, the Blob issue is a bad issue. It's
so far,
it's
it's been the worst issue we've talked about.
Yes.
I think, what did we give it? 1.5?
It was pretty low, something like that.
I think so.
1.5.
I think it was 1.5.
But I was disappointed by how poorly it was handled, but I did have a little bit of investment. Like, I wanted to know what's going to happen with the Blob.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, his decisions ultimately didn't make sense, and it was poorly written.
Mm-hmm.
But enough was set up where I was like, what's going to happen with this gruff, unpleasant man who kind of got pulled into this situation and was treated poorly? You kind of wonder.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no character stakes in the Stranger issue.
You do not care about the Stranger at all. I know I don't.
Or Magneto or Toad.
Magneto. Yeah, especially at this point, you don't care about Magneto or Toad because the characters. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like, let's talk about that. Okay, so the character, let's talk about the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Okay, Mastermind gets turned into a block of granite, a stone statue. You certainly don't care about that character. In previous issues, the only characterization that's been given to him is that he's a evil creep and potential rapist. Like just like the creepiest of bad guys.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Toad. I actually want to say that Toad, you might feel a little bit of sympathy for, not as much as Scarlet Witch or Quicksilver, but a little bit of sympathy for, if you go with my reading of the character, which we talked about in the previous issues. I don't remember which episode, but I talked about the potential that the character was actually brainwashed.
Yeah,
and that he's actually
it kind of
like,
made sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense in the context of the art. It was never explicitly stated in the text, but I think that there's enough material there to believe that the character is just like this really dumb, certainly naive, possibly of low intelligence, who was brainwashed into being this sycophant to Magneto. Mm-hmm. And so, in that reading, if you accept that, you feel a little sorry for him. But in this issue, you don't feel sorry for him because he's just this big, like
right.
Master, no. Yeah, exactly. Just this suck up idiot. And of course, you don't feel sorry for Magneto because he is. How did Grant Morrison describe Magneto in these old issues? A sadistic old cunt or something like that.
He was a daft old terrorist.
Daft old terrorist. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Something to that effect. You certainly don't feel sorry for Magneto. So the three characters that get like completely unceremoniously written out of this issue, almost no sympathy for. Like I said, Toad possibly a little bit, but not really. Certainly not in this issue. Mm-hmm. And then your big character moment comes from the only characters that you care about, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who immediately exit themselves from the story. What the hell where was I going with all of that? I guess.
Sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know what I was going at. I guess what I'm getting at is
there's no character stakes here.
There's just no stakes here. Yeah, exactly. Like at the point that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch check themselves out, that's practically the end of the issue for me. I don't care that Magneto gets taken away. I don't care that Toad gets taken away. I don't care that Mastermind is still stuck as a stone statue and that there's apparently nothing they can do for him. You know,
right.
I just don't care, and I also don't care that the X-Men have no idea what's going on and seemingly also don't care. Mm-hmm. I just don't care about anything in this issue.
I just don't care.
The whole issue should have been about Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and they're because that's an actual character tension. That's an arc. That's drama. There's so much there, and it's just like 2 pages in this issue.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. What else there? What else is there to say, man?
I got nothing else to say about this issue. I think I'm at this point where I'm repeating myself.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page. I think it's a good stopping point, personally. Yeah. We could like chase more art panels and things like that, but I think this isn't one of the gems of the early X-Men comics.
So let's wrap this up really quickly. Let's do a few little I don't know what you would call it, our little things that we've done in previous podcasts.
Sure.
Favorite panel from the issue? What was your favorite panel?
Well, I think the only time I kind of like snapped to and cared was the space panels, and they had nothing to do with the story, but at least it was like exciting.
Yeah, I mean they're good panels. It's classic Kirby art. I love when Kirby just draws the far out cosmic, whacked out space junkie stuff. And that panel of, I mean, as like an isolated panel, like as like a a Lichtenstein print. Like if you just took that panel of this cosmic beings leaving Earth with the dialogue bubble, "We shall never return."
Mm-hmm.
What a great art piece that would be. I would hang that on my wall. Like that would be.
I'd blow that up and put it in my living room.
I certainly would. If any artist out there wants to get some money from me, you could do that. I would totally hang that on my wall if you wanted to. If you wanted to go down the Lichtenstein road, which I think many comic artists don't want to do. But it's a good panel. It's cool. I'm gonna go with what I said before. My favorite panel was the one where Jean Grey lets loose on Scarlet Witch, especially because I actually really like the context of that panel when you have everybody's kind of fighting with Quicksilver. There's that. I'm sorry, Scarlet Witch. Quicksilver's been frozen, and Scarlet Witch is kind of taken on the whole team. And you get this cool panel of what is Beast juggling there? Just like pieces of ceiling. Scarlet Witch is keeping him busy, and Cyclops is blasting things. And I really like that final panel that we talked about, where Jean Grey just lets loose on Scarlet Witch, especially because I like that Cyclops tries to call her back. Like he's like shocked that she's going out on her own, and he's trying to keep control of things, and Jean Grey's like no, I've wanted to do this for a long time, and we're gonna finally match my telekinetic power against her hex power, and it's this great. I don't know, it's a good panel, and I think that it's got the kitsch appeal, but it also is just legitimately exciting. It fits with the characters. Cyclops is trying to keep control of the team. Jean Grey is tired of the way things have been going, and she's gonna take control of things. I like it a lot.
It's a good moment.
Yeah. Other than that, I really don't even have any contenders for favorite panel. The rest,
there's some cool stuff, but it's just there's so little emotional attachment from the story to make me really care all that much.
I do like all the panels we talked previously with the cops kind of giving Cyclops the business, and then they realize that he's Cyclops of the X-Men. They take his glasses and his eye beams start going crazy. I do like those panels. I actually like the whole bit about how without his glasses, even trying to close his eyes doesn't prevent his powers from erupting. Like he can't even shut his eyes hard enough to keep his powers from blasting out, and he's frantically covering his face with his hands. I actually really like that aspect. I like that aspect of the mutants in general, that they have little to no control over their powers, and that's the importance of Professor Xavier and the work that he does, and also the importance of them being at the school, is that they're trying to learn control. And this is a really great. It's a good visual of that. Of like Cyclops' powers are so out of control, he needs to wear his glasses. If not, even he can't control them. It is a little heavy-handed. I will agree. Like
it's a little inconsistent, given that later he's using his power to melt frost off of a person's vulnerable body.
Well, he's wearing his glasses then.
Yeah, I suppose he's. Oh
no, actually he's not. He takes his glasses off in that panel.
He's taking them off, but he's not in a state of emotional duress.
Exactly.
He's focused.
He's focused, and he's telling everybody to shut up. Trying to keep calm. I think you can make the case. I will agree. There is a little inconsistency there, but I I don't know. Again, I'm just gonna fall back to my I like Cyclops, and so I just like panels of his eye blast just going crazy and cops running like crazy.
Well, we're over an hour on this issue, which we said is the worst issue.
Well, don't worry.
So-
I'm gonna edit this down like crazy.
Okay.
there's, there's no way we're gonna keep talking about this issue. I think yeah, that's definitely the end of it. So my question to you, final question to you, Alex. We've talked about how much we can't stand this issue. How many stranger mustache points do you give this issue out of 5? I'm stuck somewhere between half and 1.
Yeah, I'm like, is this a turkey?
Is that a total bomb?
Is this a?
Because I want to give the sequence, the sequence that we talked about, the one that we keep talking about, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver sequence. Those 2 pages were pretty good. I liked them.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that had barely anything to do with anything, huh?
Yeah, half star.
Half star? All right, half a mustache.
Half star.
I'll agree with you on that. Half a mustache. The lowest rating ever.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's the end of that. I will say, I don't want to give too much foreshadowing here, but the way this issue ends, with that kind of cliffhanger, that incessant beeping of Cerebro, I'm just doing a quick count here, 7 beeps across 2 panels. Cerebro's going crazy, the most powerful mutant, leading into the next issue.
Yeah.
The next issue might possibly be the whole reason I wanted to do this podcast series with you, Alex.
Okay. All right.
I don't want to get your hopes up too much. I'm just saying.
That's quite a tease there.
I'm just saying that if we've established that issue 1 is basically the only issue of the 11 issues that we've read so far, issue 12 is probably the second issue. But again, I don't want to get. It's been a while since I've read it, so
okay.
I don't know. I might be wrong.
Wait with bated breath.
Yeah.
See what the deal is.
Yeah. Looking back, we've enjoyed some of the issues since then, but it's all been kind of middle of the road. But I'll admit, I'm ready to just get this episode out of the way so that we can get to the next issue because.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. Okay, so let's end this here. Thanks everybody for listening. You've probably listened to an incredibly edited version of this episode because there's been a lot of repeated nonsense between me and Alex saying boring, dull, stupid, not interesting. But hopefully we were very concise in the final edit.
That's the magic of editing.
Yes, exactly. But if you are so inclined, you can find more episodes of this very podcast at comicdna.podbean.com. And you can find comics that I have written at, oh my goodness, I just realized I have to remember, I have 2 new comics out that have started since the last episode. But you can find the comic that I did last year, you can find at www.thebirdlander.com. I did that with a brilliant artist by the name of Ed Bickford. And Ed and I have a new comic at gocomics.com. You can find our new comic, American Chop Suey. So if you go to gocomics.com and search for American Chop Suey, you will find us on there. That's the new comic that we're doing. And you can also find a new comic that I'm doing with artist Sarah Rude. We are doing a spin-off of one of my old comics called Zero's Heroes. The new comic is called The Uncontrollable Wreck-Lass. And I'm a really bad promoter. I couldn't give you an exact URL, but it is at Tapastic. We're hosting it on Tapastic. So The Uncontrollable Wreck-Lass on Tapastic. And that's a comic that I'm doing on there. We just started them at the beginning of this year in January. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be doing all year. Is those 2 comics. So, Alex, you got nothing going on. I know that. I'm teasing you. Actually, Alex, you're actually one of my other comics that I'm working on. another Zero's Hero spinoff that I was doing called the Amoral Stingray. Alex is slowly chipping away at pages on issue 3.
Slowly
here.
but surely. Along with Chris McJunkin doing
Yep.
some
My good friend,
fantastic inking.
Yeah, my good friend Chris McJunkin. I'm not interested in going into a history of my production schedule of the books that I'm making, but yes, issue 3 coming soon with art by the original artist Kevin Bant and also new artists Alex Harner and Chris McJunkin. Hopefully we'll have that finished in a few months, give or take. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I look forward to the next issue of Comic DNA, X edition number 12, that Alex and I are going to do. And I don't know, that's it. Alex, any final words?
Not really.
All right.
We're almost through this.
We're so close. And that's it. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.